Great. My apologies for the interruption. Also, we've invited John Acunto, who's a consultant to Nyxio and founder of Play Gigit Games. He is an expert in the area that we're now embroiled in, and he has been helpful for the transition of the acquisition of 212 Decibels, formerly Chasen. John will provide some expert opinion later on the call during our Q&A. Basically, I want to discuss briefly the restructuring. The restructuring of Nyxio is ongoing as we see things moving forward. As many of us know, the company has been working very hard to execute on its business plan. The company today is really now 2 business units. The first branch now is both product and software development. This branch of the company is actively working to innovate and develop new hardware and software technologies to be marketed by partners by Nyxio itself. This section of the company has spent millions in research and development in its intellectual property, and we've really come a long way in the hardware side. This division is basically being reorganized and has been going through a reorg and will for the next 6 months as the company continues to innovate and explore new approaches on its goal of connecting the world. The company plans to update investors on this process on a quarterly basis. As progress is made in this area, we will deliver significant news about monetization as it happens and unfolds into the future. The second branch is very exciting, and it's a new division of the company known as Play Gigit Games. This division is delivered out and is moving forward post-acquisition of 212 Decibels and its assets Play Gigit and Rock This. Nyxio has invested millions in equity to acquire this company. Nyxio knew that it could restructure the intellectual property and assets and the launch the series of products that will be accepted in the marketplace. The Play Gigit division will focus primarily on delivering artist games and applications to the world at large. It will also launch its own mobile game unit this spring, and we were very excited about that development. Let's talk about some facts. The 2 divisions just discussed reflect the current structure of Nyxio today. With that said, I would like to take a brief moment to state some facts that I and management have had to face head-on as we work hard to correct. First off, Nyxio is a product of a reverse merger from over 2 years ago. The company has gone through 3 reverse splits in less than 24 months. Nyxio has over 10 discounted debt deals in its latest 10Q with various market discounts. To pay our employees and consultants, we have had to file a few S8s recently. We have several convertible debt instruments that we've had to face head-on and modify since the reverse to make them more shareholder-friendly. These items are challenges that we face head-on and will need to face head-on moving forward in the past few months. As we restructure the company, the position for the future is bright, and something that we're going to disclose during these calls, moving into the future, and also by press releases that you've seen and you will continue to see. Next, I want to discuss evaluation of our asset, our most recent target company. The valuation of Nyxio, when looked at in the broad sense, as we acquired 212 Decibels, we saw the opportunity to increase the value of the company. Let me make some insights on this. 212 Decibel raised capital of over 3 years, ranging from $100 million and as low as $25 million. These were valuations that were brought in by specialists in the area and the vertical of this space. So again, we have seen valuations for this company ranging from $100 million to as low as $25 million. That leads me to answer the question, why? Well, 212 Decibels has exclusive contracts signed with over 7 major artists. It has licensing deals with all the major music labels and publishers such as Sony Music Publishing, Universal Music and its subsidiaries, such as Def Jam Records, for example, Universal Publishing, Warner Music, and publishing all of its subsidiaries, and so on. These contracts have significant value in the game and mobile space. These business units operate on. So what is PlayGigit Games, after all? It is a question that must be answered before we can discuss and move forward to flesh out moving forward with the company. Let me at this point turn over the conversation to John Acunto, and then I will summarize what we intend to do with the company moving forward. John?
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for the summary. Let's kind of start with PlayGigit and the artists that PlayGigit has agreements with. To name off a few, you have Nas, Brandy, Kendrick Lamar, Flo Rida, Lil Wayne, Common, Rick Ross, Neo, T-Pain, Miguel, Tyga, Soulja Boy, Sean Kingston, The Dream, K. Michelle, Schoolboy Q, Jeremiah, French Montana, so on and so forth. You can keep going down the list. Our combined have a significant following, and our artist agreements provided under PlayGigit that they post on social networks and that they continue to market and promote that platform. The company, Nyxio, entered into an agreement to partner with a company called TopFan. What is TopFan? Well, TopFan has right now almost 210 artists, celebrities, and athletes. To just pick a few, and certainly you can go to top-fan.com and check it out yourself. They have, from a celebrity standpoint, Jamie Foxx, Samuel L. Jackson, John Stamos, and I can actually read off the list here. They have Miranda Cosgrove, Gordon Hayward, Chris Bosh from basketball, Mindless Behavior. But in summary, and there's just so many, it's just pretty hard to list all of them. But in summary, the followers of combined entities and the way that we structured being able to serve TopFan and the way we are going to serve our artists in creating games, the summary is that the combined followers of both of these entities is 913,235,237, with a breakdown being 556 million Facebook, 263 million Twitter, 93 million Instagram. It's quite a significant influence and number out there. And when you look at the marketplace with Kim Kardashian's app generating such significant revenue, 900 to even 900,000 a day. There's other reports of 800. Across that board, and you look at what the artist influence is, it's significant. So PlayGigit Games is basically the ability to create games for these artists, celebrities, and athletes. So we then partnered with a company called Inner4, Purple Penguin, and there's a whole series of different games that they've published. And they currently have 1,000 games that are active in app stores. They're mobile games and apps that are in iTunes right now. They're in Android. They're on Amazon. And they have right now an active install base of over 115 million users. What we've done is sort of combine and squish all that together to create this PlayGigit Games. So in essence, we've got 1,000 games, and we have the ability to reskin those games and make them the celebrities' games. So just as a little factoid, that's exactly what Kim Kardashian's app is. Kim Kardashian's app wasn't custom created over the course of 2 years with $20 million. It, in fact, was a game that was reskinned and turned into Kim Kardashian's game. So in the case of Playgigit Games, Playgigit Games is going to focus on the artists, athletes, and celebrities, whether they're Playgigits from that was sold in the acquisition or whether it's partnership with TopFan. Looking at the potential there and the turnaround, it's quite significant. We have the ability to approach these almost 300 artists with almost 1 billion people in fan followings across multiple social networks, and be able to say, okay, Mr. Artist, Athlete, Influencer, Entertainer, choose amongst 1,000 games. Pick one you like. We'll put your face, your logo, your likeness. We'll make this product yours, and literally in a very short period of time have it launched into the mobile app stores such as iTunes and Google, etc. So that's sort of a summary from this end of what Playgigit Games is, and I'll turn it over to Mark to sort of wrap things up.
Great. Thanks, John, for that succinct overview on the technology. And just as a quick recap, we currently control a portfolio of approximately 270 known artists with a user base of approximately 750 million. Our analytics and the message is going to be strong. And basically, I would like to just briefly discuss our objectives and how we intend to deliver to shareholders and shareholder value in the coming days, weeks, and months. First, how we build shareholder value is as follows. We will increase our platform, our users, our revenue, and our earnings potential. Let me break this down. The company that offers freemium games, such as those of the market, and as John touched upon, Kim Kardashian, the apps know their users. There was initial valuations based on the number of users, and the analytics of this basically helps us project our future earnings, which are very exciting to say the least. Their projected growth in companies, as we've touched upon, there are apps that make anywhere, as upwards of $800 million per day in revenue. Since we do believe we have a number of key followed artists in our portfolio, we do expect to have that impact the bottom line. On platform growth, basically we will be adding new artists every day. Our artists have influence and have a social following. As we announce these artists, we will look at the basically press releasing this so that you'll understand and follow the story as it continues to unfold, with cumulative numbers to be announced along with the games. And basically,
do you mind if I dovetail that for a moment?
Please.
So when you look at user bases, right? So we have 270 known artists. Their reach across a number of social media platforms is immense, right? So we're not going to reach each of these people, but the platform that we have, or platforms that we will then have at our disposal, co-branding and co-efforts with these artists in order to promote the applications, the response is going to be immediate and massive. So I just wanted to, kind of highlight that as well.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, addressing user growth, and we intend to invest resources into the data we receive for this user growth, and we'll certainly break them down to our shareholders as we move forward. On revenue growth, as our user base grows, we will expect the advertising and in-app purchases to go up as well. This should be very strong increase in revenues to the bottom line. This revenue growth can be accelerated because we are not just one game, but many, as we discussed on the platform, and we deliver advertisers in various demographics based on the very different varied games that we'll be offering. Again, we have access to over 900 or 1,000 games that we will be able to deploy. Also, our app purchases are from proven games that have already been monetized to the market. My understanding is Mr. Kunto has identified the top 5 or 10% of the games that have been out to market to identify for our celebrities and leaders in social. So that will allow us to know which ones are tractionable and are sticky in the market. And we'll be able to, when we have a history, these games have a history of quick adjustments so that they can be refined and returned in-app purchases, which will be very strong, we believe. The potential for earnings, all of the above allows us to start looking at not only investing into companies' growth, but beginning to bring value to the investors through earnings. To expand on that in specificity on this particular call, but we'll give guidance moving forward in the coming quarters, because I believe the best approach will be to have maybe a quarterly update conference call as we move forward. Valuation growth, as we execute all of the above, we see growth for our valuation as an enterprise, Nyxio, PlayGigit. We believe that when investors research valuations of other companies in this category or vertical and weigh our strengths and weaknesses against theirs, they will see that our restructured company is clearly undervalued to its potential. So with that, I'd like to leave it open right now for Q&A.
Yes, go ahead.
Anyone else who is not asking questions or comments, please put their phones on mute.
Well, I'd like to ask a question. I'd like to ask when the selling of the shares is going to stop. Each time I'm told that one heavy seller seems to have left, another one seems to arrive.
That is correct. Moving forward, go ahead.
Is that going to carry on? Because if it's going to carry on, then...
Correct. No, and I appreciate that comment and concern. We have obviously, been very, very attentive to this particular selling that we're experiencing currently, and obviously putting massive downward pressure on the stock and our current market cap. We have had to deal with one particular investor who went out of position, and there was some certain downward selling, and systematic, in fact. And so I did address that with our SEC counsel, and we gotten to the bottom of it. Again, pricing and timing is certainly an issue at all times. We've eaten through it and basically reloading at this point. We have very, very, very attentive shareholders who are following the story, and we're not going to continue to see this wacky going shorty on our stock. We're very very concerned about that. We've gotten through it. So I think that we're trending on stock price at this point forward.
Well, now you've issued another 106 million, and now it looks like the holder of the 106 million has now started divesting themselves of of their stock as well. Because for quite some time the share price sort of stabilized round about the 00, 10 to sort of 13 range, and now, do you know what it's hit today?
Correct. No, yes. If that particular individual or house has not been supporting the bid, and I understand it wasn't early. It's a slow roast, not a flash burn in terms of selling, as far as I understand it. I do know our CEO Giorgio Johnson is also on top of this on a daily basis, and we do expect stabilization here moving forward.
When do you expect stabilization, or when are you aiming to achieve it?
Again, we are achieving currently, and we continuing in the short term. In the next week or so, I believe we're going to have stabilization and somewhat upward trending where the stock should be currently. Again, it was not expected, and we had to get deep in terms of discovery and find out what exactly was happening at that point. But obviously, as we all know, this deal is seriously undervalued because we've had some selling. We believe with our continued press and execution strategy for our game plan with our new program post restructuring, we're going to see that upward trending that we had expected a month or two ago.
Also, we'd like to keep each person to a time limit. So we'll wrap up this part of your question, sir, and then we'll have to move on to somebody else, please.
Okay. I have a question then too. So here's my question. Can you guys hear me? So
yes.
So I just, as a overall company, I see only good news in the company. I see all that. I do really realize the company did a reverse split of almost 2,000 to 1, and the stock opened at 0.20 cents, right? 0.2. Seeing now the stock is 3.6 0.0006, seeing all this good news, seeing just 2 months ago the stock was 3 cents. It isn't kind of a small drop. This is a monstrous drop overall, which would lead one to believe there are issues going on inside the company just by looking at this, or that all the things you guys claim you can do doesn't seem like you're going to be able to accomplish it. One of the two has to be true. The continuous selling can only bring a stock down so much. It concerns me that it would drop that much in a 2-month period. And what concerns me is are there plans, or have Nyxio talked about any type of an additional reverse split, since you've already done it many times? Scare any stockholder from investing in that.
I'm a
Go
fellow
ahead and weigh in, John.
Yeah, listen, I'm a fellow shareholder. Nyxio acquired my company, right? So from myself and speaking on behalf of, I would say, probably all shareholders of 212 as part of that transaction, I think that Nyxio and their explanation to me it's quite, I get it. The focus is on building a company, and when you're doing that, it takes time to really restructure and fix things and get things in place. And the company really, if you really go back to the beginning of this, it's really not been, let's dig into the market and let's worry about the stock. I think it's really been, let's focus on the company and let's focus on getting that right. Because I think that your two examples of it must be this or it must be that, I think the underlying thing is if you don't have a business, you don't have a stock, right? And I think that Nyxio has worked really hard, to me as a shareholder and certainly an invited guest on this call, to look at it and say, wow, okay, there's an underlying business being built. And you know what? The company doesn't control the market. Certainly it controls the shares that go into the market. Certainly it can control dilution. But at the end of the day, building an underlying business is what it's all about. And for all investors, including myself as a shareholder, I really care that there's an underlying business here and that the business can execute. And I think that, with a simple 5-second diligent Google and looking at Play Gigit and looking at the celebrities that are involved, look at Top Fan and look at all the artists and celebrities involved and looking at the realness of it, I think that you can, and I hate to use vernacular here, I think you could say that there isn't any bullshit behind the news, right? And I think that underlying, there's a restructure taking place, as Mark, CFO, who's super qualified in restructures, is building an underlying business and a great foundation. And so as a shareholder, I'm comfortable, right, with saying, wow, okay, there's an underlying business, and certainly the stock has went down, and that happens. Things go. But what is the plan going forward? And that's really what investors invest in, is what's going forward, and then it's learned from mistakes. So that's just my input, and I might be way off chiming in that way, but from a shareholder perspective.
Yeah, fair enough, John.
How many going to buy back?
Okay. I mean, yeah, and
it's been debated and it's been discussed about buying back shares in the market. Yes, I mean, that's been brought up at the board level, and that's very much potentiality for moving forward as well, yes.
But there is no talk about doing another reverse split.
Correct, not. Yeah,
okay.
Under my auspice, that will not occur. I can tell you that.
Okay.
We'll support. I mean, once we show our horns and we've got the market understanding and absorbing and acknowledge this, we're going to see an upward trending. And obviously we've got 10, 20, 30% flip here and there, and we've got we had some difficult conversions we got to get through. But we want to hold the bid and alternately move up the market. We want to execute on strategy for revenue, serious revenue to the company. I believe Nyxio is well positioned for this distribution base that we've discussed today, and we're fiercely fighting to have the market realize the actual nature of what we are as a company, and we will reflect that further with our revenue once it starts to come in.
Okay.
Fine. Does anyone else have any questions, either on the technology itself side or ops or the market, whatnot?
Yes. About the other side of the company, when I spoke to Mr. Johnson, first time I spoke to Mr. Johnson, you know who this is, Mr. Johnson, so I very much said that, all the integrated technology that the company is working on, I've now started actually calling it Internet 4.0, which is, of course, purely the Internet of Things, where things are, so interconnected. It's incredible. There's another company which also has another device called the brain-computer interface, which is Mind Solutions. You might want to look them up. It's really quite amazing what they're doing as well. But that side of things, what are you working on?
Pertaining to it, or?
Yes. What are you working on most of all with that? I mean, is it like at the moment? Is it like working on like a home management system, and working on the software, or working on the hardware, or working on all of it all at the moment? Because that side of it, we've not really discussed it at all. I mean, not on the public forum I post on. It's very much been all about, play gig it so far.
Well, I think that part of that is entailed to the fact that that's really the newest, focus for at least I would say at least half the company. The ongoing efforts for the hardware is, they've spent millions of dollars moving that forward, and primarily on the television units. And I understand, that there is significant potential in that area. But I would like to defer to future press release on that, because the actual minutia of that really should be handled by our CEO, Giorgio Johnson, and maybe John could address a little bit more on how the hardware kind of coalesces along with the software that's also being developed. But my understanding is that both sides are. It's true, both arms of the company are in full-fledged efforts for monetization. I just believe that we'll probably see a little more action on the software side in the short term.
Well, I think that, and I can say it this way, and I want to first off say, I'm not saying that we are this company. I'm going to cite it as an example, but I think it's a good example to use, and that is that when you look at Apple prior to the iPod, and you look at what its goal was to launch this brand new product and to gain traction and launch the iTunes store and bring users in, and then it became a peripheral company around that. So when you really look at it, iTunes and Apple, iTunes, by gaining the traction that it had with the iPod and then the iPhone, became that company where it could offer these services because it had a base of users. I think that Giorgio and his intelligence in this, and Mark in his restructure, is really saying, wow, let's gain an audience, right? Where's that audience? And from that, brand and capture that audience, and doing it through what everyone's doing on a mobile device. Maybe not yourself, but most people are playing a game at some point throughout the day or week on their mobile phone, and to reach that audience, I think is a great building of a platform, knowing that you've got a company that has the hardware and software team there to deploy product into that user base. And quite frankly, I think it's just brilliant. I think the restructuring plan that Mark has put together makes sense. Gain eyeballs, gain users, gain a base, and market to that base. That would be my input. And certainly this call is not just about, what's the restructure plan, but it's also about announcing this. And we should have touched on, and I think I skipped over it, we're announcing what we are doing, artists getting their engagement by Southwest in a week, right? So that's really the, big event, the big announcement to really, capture the fan base of our artists, celebrities, and athletes, and really begin the campaign of what, you've been hearing. The CEO and the CFO invited me on the call to really say to our shareholders, hey, look, here's what we're doing. This is what's happening, so that they're not the last to hear it. They're the first to hear it.
Correct. Yeah, and thanks, John, for that overview. And what I'd like to do now in consideration of time is field any additional questions that anyone might have, any of our shareholders, anyone interested in Nyxio, to me personally, and I'll give my email right now. It's Mark with a K, M-A-R-K, at Nyxio.com, and I will address them personally for response. So if I could go ahead and adjourn, it would be great, and I appreciate this, the alacrity on the call and a lot of great questions. And we will have a follow-up call shortly in the coming weeks to kind of regroup as well and address some of the other outlying questions that might come up. So thank you, everybody, for attending the call today, and looking forward to talking very